Hello, everyone, and welcome to our video today on Meet Our Instructor, Dennis Thibodeaux. He is our technical instructor and cybersecurity subject matter expert. Today, I'm going to be asking Dennis some questions that are commonly asked in our classes. We'll start with the first one. Dennis, what do you like the most about training?
I love that aha moment that we get in class when someone is a little apprehensive about the nature of the material and we explain a testable concept using real world experience and real world applications. If I can connect something from my professional experience to the experience of the student, they tend to get it at a way that they don't generally get it just by reviewing material in a textbook or looking at a lecture. Some of this stuff is what we do in the lecture components of our technical classes. Some of this is what we do in the hands-on labs that accompany many of our technical classes. And we're always looking for that aha moment as the teachable moment. And I get a lot of feedback from people who have been through certification prep classes with us. I'll get an email 6 weeks or 6 months after a class. Hey, Mr. Tibb, remember that thing that I didn't quite get in the lab or that thing that I didn't quite get in the lecture? The way you explained it to me helped me to understand this on the exam, and I got it. And by the way, I passed my certification exam, so thanks for a good experience. We live for those moments as instructors, and it's always great to get that type of feedback.
All right. How many certifications do you have?
61 so far in a variety of technical disciplines, from the Microsoft credentials to CompTIA, ISACA, ISC squared, EC Council. My focus these days primarily is in the cybersecurity track for CompTIA certifications and the infrastructure track for CompTIA certifications. And as I add up about a quarter of a century of experience of taking IT-related certification exams, when I run the numbers, what I come up with is 61 credentials so far.
And which was the hardest to pass? I
That's
know
easy.
specifically CompTIA, right?
The first one.
Yeah.
There's some rather advanced subject matter in things like CompTIA Advanced Security Practitioner. Obviously, it's got advanced in the name. Linux Plus, Server Plus, CompTIA Cybersecurity Analyst, all of those advanced level credentials. You think those are going to be the toughest exams. No, the toughest for me was the first one. There was no such thing as CompTIA official courseware. I didn't have a class. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anyone walking me through the process. Some of the third-party materials were not quite adequate, so I really was on my own for prepping for my early certification exams. I just had to get it and knock them out with product knowledge. CompTIA A+, the old technician certification in a much earlier era of all of this, was 2 exams. It is still 2 exams. And that very first attempt at a CompTIA exam was kind of scary for me. I passed it, but I thought I should do better. So, having had that rather scary experience on my very first CompTIA exam, I started looking for ways to get better at passing those certification exams. And I think 21 years later, I've actually got it down to a pretty reliable set of methods, but I always think about that very first exam experience, especially in the CompTIA certification tracks. And I remember that in every class that we teach, there may be somebody there who is seeing this for the very first time. And I will do whatever I can to get their confidence level up and help get them prepped and ready to pass their exams on the first attempt.
Valuable information. What is your real world experience?
My first career was in broadcasting. I did a lot of broadcast engineering as well as on-air stuff back in the days when most of your broadcast technology was analog rather than digital. And working in broadcasting gave me my first exposure to what we can do with digital technologies. After that, I worked in consumer electronics, then I got into enterprise IT and have been an instructor of this material with New Horizons for the past 11 years so far. And really, my approach in the classroom depends very heavily on my real world enterprise IT experience. I learned a lot as a small business practitioner of IT, but getting into enterprise IT in the late 90s really opened things up for me. And I saw all of the interdependencies between corporate structures and what we have to do at the hands-on IT level. So it's a solid background, primarily enterprise IT. And of course, I still have to stay current with enterprise IT, enterprise security, and similar topics. As instructors of the material, we do have that obligation to build on real world experience and yet keep our skill sets current.
Nice. Where should someone start if they're interested in getting certified? I know there's a lot of places, but what's the best?
One of the things that we do in class, and this is fairly early in our time together in a 3 day or a 5 day technical class, is that I will drop on those students a very important piece of documentation from the certification exam vendor, and that is the exam objectives document. Let me put an example up here on the screen. If somebody comes to us for Security Plus training, and they're a little apprehensive about all of this. And I make the point, you have to learn a lot of acronyms. You have to really hit the books to pass something as complex as Security Plus, rather than just pointing the things out in the courseware, describing how those things will be used on the exam. I'll drop a security certification exam objectives document on them that comes directly from the vendor of the exam itself. In this case, it's going to be CompTIA, the Computing Technology Industry Association. So in the back of the exam objectives document, after it shows us each one of the topics that is going to be testable on the exam, you see those list of acronyms. So if somebody has been through Security Plus training with me, or Cybersecurity Analyst, or Pen Test Plus, or Linux Plus, or Server Plus, or Cloud Plus, and they get to the exam and they look at something like this and they go, Cloud Access Security Broker, CASB, and they only see the acronym CASB on the exam and they go, wait a minute, CASB? I don't know what that means. I have no clue what this acronym stands for. This is something I should have known in class. If they get to that point where they're taking the exam and they don't know an acronym that is that critical, I have not done my job properly. So we always drill on these lists of acronyms, and we always make the point that this is not secret knowledge. These documents should be considered in the public domain. Anybody can find them, anybody can study them. So this is one of those things that we will point out as one of the very first things that someone would do. This really is the starting point. You go and you find the exam objectives document published by the vendor of the certification exam, and you should be able to find these online for every one of your modern IT certifications.
All right, Dennis, what is your happy client story?
The very first time New Horizons sent me out on the road to do an on-site class, it was at Princeton University. I am from a little town in Louisiana. Came up through a working class background, had no exposure to anything related to the Ivy League. And my very first big assignment as a traveling instructor for New Horizons was to work with the IT staff at Princeton University on their Security Plus certifications. Had no idea what to expect. I was in a highly restricted network, couldn't demonstrate all of the things that you have to demonstrate, all the cool hacker tools and all the simulations of the way security would be violated in corporate environments to get better at defending the network. None of those things were available to me as I had to work in this highly restricted network to get the job done. There were 25 Ivy League IT pros, and there was me. We got it done. 24 of the 25 people in that class passed their Security Plus certification exams on the first attempt. The one who did not missed it by one question, came back to take it a second time, and absolutely nailed it. So 24 out of 25 passing a certification exam on the first attempt, I think is a pretty good validation. And that still stands out in my memory after all the many, many hundreds or maybe even thousands of times at this point where I've had to go and do certification prep class at a client location. That first experience, which turned out quite well, is the one that still sticks out in my memory as the best experience that I have had in an on-site type of training at New Horizons. And that's always a good thing to remember about us at New Horizons. If you cannot come to class over at our place, we can bring the class to your location.
Well, thank you, Dennis. I appreciate your time today. I will let you get back to training and doing what you do best.
Thank you.